The movie commences with three friends, Becky and her husband Dan, and their closest friend Hunter. While ascending, Becky is compelled to jump from her side to reach Dan, who successfully catches her. As Dan proceeds with his ascent, he is startled by a bat flying out of its hole, causing him to lose and float. Despite his efforts to regain his footing and climb back up, Dan's harness becomes untethered, leading to his tragic demise. Nearly a year has passed, and Becky's life has taken a dark turn. She has succumbed to alcoholism and remains stuck in the grief of Dan's death. Ever since her father, James, expressed his belief that she should not mourn Dan because he may not have been the person she thought he was, Becky has distanced herself from him. James made it clear that he wouldn't mourn Becky in the same way if she were the one who had passed away. Feeling utterly hopeless, Becky returns home from the bar with the intention of ending her life through an overdose. However, just as she is about to carry out her plan, she receives an unexpected call from Hunter. Hunter suggests meeting up at Becky's apartment to provide comfort and support. She proposes the idea of climbing a TV tower that stands over 2,000 feet tall. Becky hesitates, as she hasn't engaged in any climbing activities since Dan's death. Despite her reservations, Hunter decides to stay with her throughout the night, offering her presence as a source of solace. Becky experiences a horrifying dream where she finds Dan lying lifeless and covered in blood beside her in bed. Upon awakening, she confides in Hunter about the words of encouragement Dan had shared with her, urging her not to fear living. Inspired by this memory, Becky agrees to accompany Hunter on their journey to the tower. Hunter drives them to a location near the tower, and they make a pit stop at a diner to grab some food. At the diner, Hunter ingeniously helps Becky charge her phone by utilizing a lamp as an improvised power source. Following their meal, they spend the night at a motel in preparation for their upcoming challenging ascent. The girls head towards the tower but are stopped at the gate, forcing them to walk the rest of the way. They come across vultures feasting on a nearly dead coyote, and the girls scare them off. Upon reaching the tower, Becky hesitates due to nerves, but Hunter persuades her to continue. They start climbing and pause after reaching 1,000 feet, admiring the view thus far. Hunter mentions that they have surpassed the height of the Eiffel Tower. As they ascend further, they must climb an additional 200 feet on a rusty and shaky exterior ladder. Hunter accidentally loosens several bolts while fooling around during the climb. Eventually, they reach the summit and enjoy the breathtaking view. Hunter records videos for her social media and uses a drone to explore the surroundings. She then decides to take photos while hanging over the edge and convinces a hesitant Becky to do the same. Becky takes the opportunity to scatter Dan's ashes from the top, which brings out emotions in Hunter. Becky takes the lead and begins descending the ladder. However, as she reaches a section where two bolts have come loose, the ladder suddenly gives way. In the process, Becky accidentally drops their bag containing the drone and water, which falls down onto a satellite below. Unfortunately, the ladder they were using to climb down is now completely destroyed. Hunter is able to swiftly react and uses their harness to pull Becky back up to safety. Becky also sustains a significant cut on her leg, but Hunter quickly improvises a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. The girls realizes that there is no signal available to call for help. Using binoculars, they notice a trailer parked nearby by the gate. Hunter attempts to lower her phone to send a distress message by finding a reception area. Despite her efforts to lower it as much as possible, it proves futile. They come up with a plan to drop the phone by placing it in Hunter's shoe, cushioned by their socks and sports bra to prevent it from breaking upon impact. Unfortunately, the phone shatters upon hitting the ground. A man from the trailer walks his dog in the vicinity, and the dog discovers Hunter's shoe and the damaged phone. The girls try to catch their attention by throwing Becky's shoes, but their efforts are in vain. Observing the man and his friend grilling food, the girls decide to wait until nightfall to use a flare gun to signal for help. When it gets dark, they use the light from Becky's phone to draw attention to themselves. However, the men not only notice the girls, but also Hunter's car, leading them to drive the trailer over to steal it. The girls become increasingly dehydrated and hungry. During the night, Becky watches a video of her and Dan's wedding and notices that Hunter looks unhappy in the background. She also spots a tattoo on Hunter's foot that reads 143, which is something Dan would say instead of "I love you" by tapping the number of letters in each word. Hunter confesses that she and Dan had an affair that lasted for 4 months after they got drunk, with Dan making the first move. Hunter explains that she ended the affair because, despite falling in love with Dan, she loved Becky even more. The next morning, Becky realizes that it has been 24 hours since they dropped Hunter's phone, leading them to accept that the phone is broken. Hunter suggests that she can climb down to the satellite and retrieve their bag to access their supplies. Using the harness, she lowers herself and successfully jumps onto the satellite. After hydrating herself, Hunter uses her selfie stick to attach the bag to the harness and uses it to assist her in climbing back up. However, while attempting to climb, Hunter slips but manages to land on the bag, albeit with rope burn on her hands. This forces Becky to pull her back up. The girls quickly write a note and attach it to the drone in an attempt to send it back to the motel. However, due to the low battery, they fly it back before it falls. Becky climbs up to the top of the tower to connect the drone to the light outlet. Despite the drone's plug falling short, Becky ingeniously uses her ring to charge it. She holds on for hours, enduring the presence of a vulture attracted by her leg wound. Eventually, Becky successfully charges the drone and flies it away. Unfortunately, just as the drone approaches the motel, it is struck by a truck and completely destroyed, with the driver oblivious to the collision. As time passes, Becky becomes increasingly delirious due to dehydration and starvation. She asks Hunter for her shoe so she can use her own phone to call for help. However, it is then revealed that the Hunter she has been conversing with for the past few hours was merely a hallucination. In reality, Hunter never made it to the bag and tragically died from her injuries while attempting to climb up. Becky, who only managed to retrieve the bag, imagines Hunter's presence to avoid facing the harsh reality of being alone up there. By the following morning, Becky is discovered by the vulture while she is asleep. The vulture attempts to peck at her leg, but Becky swiftly seizes the vulture by its neck and forcefully strikes and eats its meat. In a desperate bid to survive, Becky realizes that she has one final opportunity and decides to send a message to her father James, expressing remorse for her previous mistreatment towards him when he was only trying to protect her. She descends to the satellite and removes Hunter's shoe to use as a container for her phone. She also places the shoe inside Hunter's stomach, as it was opened by the vulture. Becky pushes Hunter's lifeless form off the satellite. Soon after, James is observed driving towards the tower, where he encounters a group of authorities present at the scene. He witnesses them handling Hunter's body, which initially causes him to fear that it may be Becky. However, he soon discovers that Becky has already been rescued and brought down to safety. Overwhelmed with relief, Becky rushes into James's embrace, and they reconcile their differences.